here's several studies trying to go back and do PK/PD on Christine, Antimicrobial, and Antimicrobial, and a bunch of things that we don't have that information. It's actually been very difficult in the national group to get these trials to accrue, mainly because you have a new patient coming in with leukemia. You're consenting them for the therapeutic trial. You're consenting them for the biologic trial. And we have our IRB. You're going through 30 pages of consenting for that. To stick on a PK/PD trial on top of that, the parents think that you don't have their best interest at heart. So as for us in oncology, where everything is trial driven, curious as just your feelings on the whole consenting issues in trials.
Yeah, so it's around. So we run into the same thing. There are places and patient populations where you're looking at parents getting approached to do 7 to 9 different trials. Different folks in that thing have different feelings about that. Some people feel, how can you possibly provide informed consent to 8 different trials? Others, very reasonable folks, feel like, it's all one big experiment when you come to a children's hospital anyway. You're at least being honest. I happen to be in the latter group. And that's somebody who has 2 children with chronic illnesses and somebody who's consenting to his own children. It's extremely variable as far as PK. One of the things that we've done to help is to try and design trials where we can look the parent in the eye and say 2 things. Number one, if this were my son, I would consent. And number 2, that there be some aspect of it that's directly, at least potentially beneficial to the child. So that if it's an antimicrobial agent, it's MRSA activity when they wouldn't normally get it. Or it's an antifungal on day 2 of fever and neutropenia rather than day 5. And that's helped us a lot with consent. Yes, sir.
So in HIV medicine, we struggled a little over the years. Initially with the nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors, which, as you know, distribute oftentimes intracellularly. Obviously the PIs don't. And even with drugs like the NNRPI and the virapine, which is used commonly throughout the world, we're all still having big debates about what the appropriate dosage is, pediatric dose for that drug. So how are you going to address that with drugs that potentially distribute intracellularly with some of these studies?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So for HIV and antiretroviral specifically, we're probably going to stay away from a lot of that because that is a research community like the Children's Oncology Group. It's actually fairly highly functioning as it relates to dosing. There's a lot of historical reasons that you know about. Most of those were brought through actually as the adult dosing come. As it relates to mechanistic components, if mechanism can inform the label, then NIH has said that they will support that. And we're about to do a test case with that in 2012, and I'll know then. Because the mechanism component of the study is going to cost them some money. And that'll go back to your question of intracellular. I don't have a good answer for that right now. Yes, sir.
You talked about obviously the effect of liver metabolism and renal function on PK/PD. When you're selecting patients for your trials, these relatively small trials, how are you balancing getting really good data on patients with normal liver function, normal brain function, versus data that's applicable to kids across various spectrums of decreased kidney function, decreased liver function, etc.?
Yeah, so as you can imagine, even within the Pediatric Trials Network, people who are close collaborators for years have very strong and different feelings about this. And I'm leaving a lot of this up to the individual PIs because I'm not sure that there's a right answer. My own personal belief, and this will be the case for the people who are mentored by me in the Peace Trials Network, is that we will have, you're going to want to have it as open as possible to be as representative of the patient population as possible, and so that you know, hey, I've got uncertainty and I've got variability, so you don't falsely give the clinician the idea of the tight PK parameter around the uniform healthy child. People who are extremely experienced, outstanding investigators, take the absolute opposite approach. And if you look at the protocols that are coming out of, and the Peace Trials Network out of Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City, they want to see a pretty good, pre-specified patient population that they can hang their hat on. I think that that's also a valid approach. So both of those approaches are going to be coming through the network, and it'll be largely PI driven for the individual trials. I'm going to be hard pressed to tell like a GI hepatologist how he or she should define the inclusion-exclusion criteria for a molecule that they've known for a decade that I'm reading about for maybe the first or second time, in a patient population that they've known for a decade that I'm getting to know for the first time. I'm going to have a hard time dictating what they think is the right way to do it.